Good morning, everyone. Hare Krishna. Glories to Srila Prabhupada. Vinka Prabhu, is my audio all right?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I'm having a bit of difficulty here this morning with my browser, but nonetheless, I want to welcome everyone here to the Prabhupada Disciples Association Saturday morning Bhagavad-gītā class with His Grace Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu. These classes we've been running for the last 7 or 8 months, I believe, and we have over 150 classes online on the Krishna Consciousness movement YouTube channel. So if by chance you cannot make any of the classes, you can always refer to these programs on our channel. And we're also interested in getting people to subscribe to the channel, which is key to our development. So please promote the channel to others. And in this way, we can expand our membership in the Prabhupada Disciples Association. Now, today, I didn't get a chance because of my technical difficulties to send over the pages. Prabhu, Venkat Bhatta Prabhu, do you have a copy of the in your own library of documents?
I can check. What's the date that we...
We're at September 25th, 1966. There's, for all of you Prabhus, there's seems to be a bit of a lapse in Prabhupada's writing here due to his trouble in dealing with new people that he was bringing to the movement. It was his movement. There was a lot of neophyte people, or less than neophytes, that were gathering around him when he was living at the Bowery. And this particular section, it demonstrates how Prabhupada was put into difficulty. If you recall, Prabhupada suffered a few heart attacks too, actually. And that period, he did not write in his diary for obvious reasons. So in this same way, he kept track of the dates, but he didn't, here we are, thank you. So you can see, we'll just go over these, you'll see for yourself how there's very few notes. Like usually he has attendance, number of people that are coming to the classes, and he's keeping track of his income and expenses. And he's sending out different letters to different people. But on Saturday, June 25th, 1966, he has the sunrise at 4:32, sunset at 7:33, and moonset at 05. So it was Astami. And on Sunday, the 26th, sunrise at 4:33, moonset at 7:33, and 03 Navami. On Monday, June 27th, sunrise at 4:33, sunset at 7:33, moonset at 0:55 Dasami. On Tuesday, June 28th, sunrise at 4:34, sunset at 7:33, moonset at 1:23 Ekadasi. And Wednesday, June 29th, 1966, back in time, Dwadasi. And then on Thursday, June 30th, Tridasi, and not even a mention of the rising and setting of the sun. So what we'll do is we'll take note of this, how Prabhupada was struggling forward, which is everyone's situation in the material world. We're all struggling due to a variety of reasons. And in this particular case, Prabhupada is struggling for Krishna. He's very focused, however, on fulfilling the orders of his spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami. We'll move forward now and have Venkat Bhatta put on the Jaya Radha Madhava prayers, and then we'll move into the discussion and reading of Bhagavad-gītā with His Grace Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Yaśodā-nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yaśodā-nandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Banachari Jamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yaśodā-nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yaśodā-nandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Banachari Jamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Muspat Paramahansa Parivrajagācārya Sattvareśvara Samāda Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupāda ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavavrinda ki Jai Nāmācārya Śrī Haridas Thakur ki Jai Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Śrīvāsādhi Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki Jai Sri Radha Krishna Mokh Gopinath Sam Khanda Radha Khanda Giri Govardhan ki Jai Vrindavan Dham ki Jai Navadvip Dham ki Jai Ganga Mai की जय जमुना माई की जय गुरु द्वारका धाम की जय स्वामी तो भक्तविंद की जय ऑल ग्लोरीज टू देयर सिमर ऑल ग्लोरीज टू देयर सिमर थैंक यू वेरी मच
Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahaguna Raghunatan Anvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahaguna Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostuti Tapta Kanchana Ghorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Welcome everyone to this reading and discussion on Bhagavad-gītā As It Is. We will be reading from the original, non-edited, non-adulterated Bhagavad-gītā, the 1972 Macmillan edition. All translations, transliterations, synonyms, and purports and commentaries by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda, Founder-Ācārya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, also known as the Krishna Consciousness Movement. Today we'll be reading from chapter 9, text 11. Avajananti mam mudha manushim tanumashritam param bhavam ajananto mama bhuta maheshwaram. Avajananti, deride, mam me, mudaha, foolish men, manushim, in the human form, tanum, body, ashritam, assuming, param, transcendental, bhavam, nature, ajanantaha, not knowing, mama, mine, bhuta, everything that be, maheshwaram, supreme proprietor. Translation by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Fools deride me when I descend in the human form. They do not know my transcendental nature and my supreme dominion over all that be. Purport. From the other explanations of the previous verses in this chapter, it is clear that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, although appearing like a human being, is not a common man. The personality of Godhead who conducts the creation, maintenance, and annihilation of the complete cosmic manifestation cannot be a human being. Yet, there are many foolish men who consider Krishna to be merely a powerful man and nothing more. Actually, he is the original Supreme Personality, as is confirmed in the Brahma Samhita. Ishvaraha Parama Krishna. He is the Supreme Lord. There are many Ishwaras, controllers, and one appears greater than another. In the ordinary management of affairs in the material world, we find some official or director, and above him there is a secretary, and above him a minister, and above him a president. And each of them is a controller, but one is controlled by another. In the Brahma Samhita, it is said that Krishna is the supreme controller. There are many controllers, undoubtedly, both in the material and spiritual world. But Krishna is the supreme controller, Ishvara Parama Krishna. And his body is Satchidananda, non-material. Material bodies cannot perform the wonderful acts described in previous verses. His body is eternal, blissful, and full of knowledge. Although he is not a common man, the foolish deride him and consider him to be a man. His body is called here Manushim, because he's acting just like a man, a friend of Arjuna's, a politician involved in the battle of Kurukshetra. In so many ways, he is acting just like an ordinary man. But actually, his body is Satchidananda Vigraha, eternal bliss and knowledge absolute. This is confirmed in the Vedic language also. Satchidananda Rupaya Kṛṣṇa. I offer my obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, who is the eternal blissful form of knowledge. There are other descriptions in the Vedic language also. Tamekam Govindam. You are Govinda, the pleasure of the senses and the cows. Satchidananda Vigraham. And your form is transcendental, full of knowledge, bliss, and eternality. Despite the transcendental qualities of Lord Krishna's body, its full bliss and knowledge, there are many so-called scholars and commentators of Bhagavad-gītā who deride Krishna as an ordinary man. The scholar may be born as ordinary, may be born an extraordinary man due to his previous good work. But this conception of Sri Krishna is due to a poor fund of knowledge. Therefore, he is called Mudha, for only foolish persons consider Krishna to be an ordinary human being because they do not know the confidential activities of the Supreme Lord and his different energies. They do not know that Krishna's body is a symbol of complete knowledge and bliss, that he is the proprietor of everything that be, and that he can award liberation to anyone. Because they do not know that Krishna has so many transcendental qualifications, they deride him. Nor do they know that the appearance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in this material world is a manifestation of his internal energy. He is the master of the material energy. As has been explained in several places, Mama Maya Duratyaya, he claims that the material energy, although very powerful, is under his control. And whoever surrenders unto him can get out of the control of this material energy. If a soul surrendered to Krishna can get out of the influence of material energy, then how can the Supreme Lord, who conducts the creation, maintenance, and annihilation of the whole cosmic nature of a material body like us. So this conception of Krishna is complete foolishness. Foolish persons, however, cannot conceive that the personality of Godhead Krishna, appearing just like an ordinary man, can be the controller of all the atoms and of the gigantic manifestation of this universal form. The biggest and the minutest are beyond their conception. So they cannot imagine that a form like that of a human being can simultaneously control the infinite and the minute. Actually, although he's controlling the infinite and the finite, he is apart from all this manifestation. It is clearly stated concerning his Yogameshwaram, his inconceivable transcendental energy, that he can control the infinite and the finite simultaneously, in that he can remain aloof from them. Although the foolish cannot imagine how Krishna, who appears just like a human being, can control the infinite and the finite. Those who are pure devotees accept this, for they know that Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. Therefore, they completely surrender unto him and engage in Krishna consciousness, devotional service of the Lord. There are many controversies amongst the impersonalists and the personalists about the Lord's appearance as a human being. But if we consult Bhagavad-gītā and Srimad Bhagavatam, the authoritative text for understanding the science of Krishna, then we can understand that Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. He is not an ordinary man, although he appeared on this earth as an ordinary human. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, first chapter, when the sages inquire about the activities of Krishna, it is stated that his appearance as a man bewilders the foolish. No human being could perform the wonderful acts that Krishna performed while he was present on this earth. When Krishna appeared before his father and mother, Vasudeva and Devaki, he appeared with 4 hands. But after the prayers of the parents, he transformed himself into an ordinary child. His appearance as an ordinary human being is one of the features of his transcendental body. In the 11th chapter of the Gita also, it is stated, Teneva Rupena, etc. Arjuna prayed to see again that form of 4 hands, and when Krishna was thus petitioned by Arjuna, he again assumed his original form. All these different features of the Supreme Lord are certainly not those of an ordinary human being. Some of those who deride Krishna, who are infected with the Mayavadi philosophy, quote the following verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam to prove that Krishna is just an ordinary man. Aham sarveshu bhuteshu bhutatma avastita sada. The Supreme is present in every living entity. Bhagavatam 3, 29, 21. We should better take note of this particular verse from the Vaishnavacharyas like Jiva Goswami, instead of following the interpretation of unauthorized persons who deride Krishna. Jiva Goswami, commenting on this verse, says that Krishna, in his plenary expansion as Paramatma, is situated in the moving and the non-moving entities as the supersoul. So any neophyte devotee who simply gives his attention to the Archamurti, the form of the Supreme Lord in the temple, and does not respect other living entities is uselessly worshiping the Lord, the form of the Lord in the temple. There are three kinds of devotees of the Lord, and the neophyte is in the lowest stage. The neophyte devotee gives more attention to the deity in the temple than to other devotees. So Jiva Goswami warns that this sort of mentality should be corrected. A devotee should see that Krishna is present in everyone's heart as Paramatma. Therefore, every body is the embodiment of the temple of the Supreme Lord. And as such, as one offers respect to the temple of the Lord, he should similarly properly respect each and every body in whom the Paramatma dwells. Everyone should therefore be given proper respect and should not be neglected. There are also many impersonalists who deride temple worship. They say that since God is everywhere, why should one restrict himself to temple worship? But if God is everywhere, is he not in a temple or in a deity? Although the personalist and the impersonalist will fight with one another perpetually, a perfect devotee in Krishna consciousness knows that although Krishna is the Supreme Personality, he is all-pervading, as is confirmed in the Brahma Samhita. Although his personal abode is Goloka Vrindavana, and he's always staying there, still by his different manifestations of energy and by his plenary expansion, he's present everywhere in all parts of the material and spiritual creation. Om Ajnanati Mirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuran Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namaum Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Bhaktisiddhanta Shishyaya Bhaktivedanta Namine Prasannaya Prashantaya Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Bhagavad-vandanam Khadyam Guru Vandana Purvakam Kshiram Sharkara Yuktam Kadatihi Visheshataham Adadana-strinam danter idam yache punaha punaham Srimadrupa padam bhoja dhulisyam janma janmani Namo Mahabhadanyaya Krishna prema pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratvishe Namaham Sri Krishna Chaitanyam Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Sri Rup Sanatana Bhatta Raghunata Sri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunata Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. We see in this text that Srila Prabhupada has written a very long purport dealing with the transcendental personality of Lord Krishna, why certain persons do not accept him, and why different impersonalists misinterpret his position. in several places in the Bhagavad-gītā as well as the Srimad Bhagavatam, there are numerous warnings by Krishna himself and Shukadev Goswami, Sutta Goswami, warning the candidates not to misunderstand Krishna's position. We see in the Vishnu Purana, as well as in the Bhagavad-gītā, there's a clear description, Dvabhuta sarvalokesmin deva asura evacha, that there are always two kinds of living beings in the universe. The deva, those who are devotees, the pious; asura, those who are against the supremacy of God, the demons. So now one has to understand what are the characteristics of both of these living beings. Vishnu Bhakta Smrito Deva Asurastad Viparyayaha. Those who are devotees of Lord Vishnu, they are considered the devas, the pious. Asurastad Viparyaya, those who are against the supremacy of God, against the supremacy of Vishnu, against the supremacy of the Supreme Lord, they are considered asuras, or persons possessed of demonic temperament. We see in the Upanishads, there are numerous descriptions of the potencies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Parasya Shaktir Vivedeva Shriyate Swabhaviki Jnana Balakriyacha. It is described that the Supreme Personality of Godhead has numerous potencies. Parasya Shaktir Vivedeva Shriyate. Many potencies. He is not void. He is not an imperson. He is a person, but a different person than us. In one lecture, Prabhupada explained that man is made in the image of God. He has a form. He has a transcendental form, which is not subject to the miseries of this material world. Just yesterday, one devotee sent me one of these little YouTube clips. It was 2 minutes where Srila Prabhupada was discussing the suffering of this material world. Prabhupada was describing that nobody likes to be caught up in the womb of the mother and suffering in that position. Nobody likes to grow old and suffer. Nobody likes to experience painful diseases. But we are put in that situation. Why? Because we have this material body. But Krishna is not like that. Krishna does not suffer. He is completely transcendental to the modes of material nature. We've just finished studying various texts where Krishna, for example, in text number 9, has described asaktam tishu karmashu udasina vadasinam asaktam tishu karnashu. O Dhananjaya, all this work cannot bind me. I am ever detached, seated as though neutral. In a purport, Prabhupada explained, similarly, the Lord is always neutral, although he has his hand in every sphere of activity. In the Vedanta Sutra, it is stated that he is not situated in the dualities of this material world. He is transcendental to these dualities, nor is he attached to the creation and annihilation of this material world. The living entities take their different forms in the various species of life according to their past deeds, and the Lord does not interfere with them. Now, this is very significant because we see that Krishna has described how he maintains the world, he creates the world, but yet is aloof from the day-to-day activities of the material world. He has different agents, different plenary portions, just like there is the government. The president doesn't take care of the post office. He doesn't take care of repairing the roads and the bridges. He has delegated agents. He has authorized agents to take care of this. We see in the Brahma Samhita, there are elaborate descriptions of the various agents of the personality of Godhead, Krishna, for the maintenance of the world. Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, Ganesha, Durga, various demigods are powerful agents for the maintenance of this material world and also for the annihilation or the destruction of the world at the end of its prescribed cycle. But Krishna is aloof. Goloke nivasati akilatma eva bhut. That Krishna is always situated in Goloka Vrindavana. Prabhupada, in one place in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, described Vrindavana parityaja padamekam nagacchati, that Lord Krishna never leaves, the original form of Lord Krishna never leaves Vrindavana. He's always in Goloka Vrindavana with Radharani and his associates. Then how does this world go on? Through his agents, through his delegated agents. So as I was referring to that video, Prabhupada said, one has to be intelligent to see the suffering in this material world. Now, atheistic people will say, oh, if there is a God, why is there suffering? That's like saying, well, if there is a prison house, why is there a government? Well, there is a government and there is a prison house for those living beings who choose to disobey the law. Who choose to go against the order of the government. It's not that the government is partial to the law-abiding citizens or the non-law-abiding citizens. It is a fact of life. It is a reality of life. So similarly, in this material world, we see that the Bhagavad-gītā describes Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadi Dukkha Dosha Anudarshanam. That intelligence means to understand the danger of accepting birth, death, old age, and disease, because it is a suffering condition. But under the influence of Maya, illusion. How is that? Through false ego. The person is thinking, I am this body, and this body belongs to me. I am American, Canadian, Mongolian, Polish, German, English. I am Hindu, I am a Muslim, I'm Christian, I'm Jewish, I'm Arab. All of these are upadis, artificial designations. What you really are is eternal spirit soul. It has nothing to do. It has nothing to do with where one is born, whether one is rich or poor, whether man or woman, whether one is beautiful or ugly, whether one is intelligent or dumb. These are all temporary material designations. What we really are is eternal spirit soul, but because we have fallen into Maya, illusion, under the influence of the illusory energy, Krishna says in the Bhagavad-gītā, Mama Maya Duratyaya. To overcome this Maya is very difficult. But if one carefully hears from the self-realized Acharya like Srila Prabhupada, then one can understand his position, the position of Krishna, the position of this material world, and what we have to do to get out from the influence of the material energy. It's quite significant here that Srila Prabhupada is quoting the Brahma Samhita, that first verse, Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachidananda Vigraha. The various Goswamis, Jiva Goswami, Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, in their writings, have often quoted this verse from Brahma Samhita. And also the other verse, Ramadi Murtishu Kalaniyamena Tishtan Nana Vatara Makarad Bhuvaneshu Kintu Krishna Swayam Samabhavat Paramah Pumanyo Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. How to understand the position of Krishna. Ramadi Murti Shuddha, all of the different avatars, like from Lord Ramachandra, Lord Vamana, Lord Narasimha, they're all coming from the personality of Godhead. Krishna Swayam. Krishna is the original personality of Godhead. This is nicely described in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam in the 3rd chapter, Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. It is confirmed also in the Brahma Samhita. Krishna is described, Krishna Swayam, same Sanskrit terminology. And Prabhupada is nicely explaining here, there are many Ishwaras in text number 11, 2nd paragraph. There are many Ishwaras, controllers, and one appears greater than another. In the ordinary management of affairs in the material world, we find some official or director, and above him there is a secretary, and above him a minister, and above him a president. Each of them is a controller, but one is controlled by another. In the Brahma Samhita, it is said that Krishna is the supreme controller. There are many controllers, undoubtedly, both in the material world and spiritual world, but Krishna is the supreme controller, Ishvaraha Parama Krishna, and his body is Satchidananda, non-material. We see in the 3rd paragraph in the middle, it is described, his body is called here Manushim, because he's acting like a man, a friend of Arjuna's, a politician involved in the battle of Kurukshetra. In so many ways, he's acting just like an ordinary man, but actually his body is Satchidananda Vigraha, eternal bliss and knowledge absolute. This is confirmed in the Vedic language also, Satchidananda Rupaya Krishna. I offer my obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, who is the eternal blissful form of knowledge. There are other descriptions in the Vedic language also. Tamekam Govindam. You are Govinda, the pleasure of the senses and the cows. Satchidananda Vigraham, and your form is transcendental, full of knowledge, bliss, and eternality. It is quite significant that when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu discovered the Brahma Samhita in Kerala, South India, when he was traveling there, there is a statement in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that there is no scripture equal to the Brahma Samhita. Srila Prabhupada also raised several times the point that his students, all of his followers and students, should study this Brahma Samhita, because it is a very concise explanation of the kingdom of God, Goloka Vrindavana, Vaikuntha, the position of Krishna, his associates, his transcendental form, and how the material world is being conducted under his management. Now, this is very significant because so many different religious sects or religious groups, many of which advance or state different positions about God. But we see in the Vedic literatures, there is clear description, detailed description of who God is, where does he live, what does he do, what are his associates, how does he create the world, how does he maintain the world, what our relationship, everything is very detailed. There is no vague language. The Brahma Samhita is very detailed about Krishna's position, Krishna's form, Krishna's associates. Lakshmi Sahasrashata Sambrahma Sevyamanam. He lives in Goloka Vrindavana, always with his associates. He has thousands of Lakshmis or Gopis. So many wonderful descriptions have been given in the Srimad Bhagavatam in the 10th canto, all the activities of Lord Krishna when he came to this planet 5,000 years ago. Prabhupada once explained that because people are frustrated trying to understand God, then they claim, oh, this is simply mythology, all the descriptions in the Shastra. No, it is not mythology. Prabhupada explained that all these great acharyas like Madhva, Ramanuja, Vishnu Swami, Nimbarka, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Vyasatirtha, Jayatirtha, the six Goswamis, Vishwanath Chakravarti, Srila Prabhupada, they've all described the position of the personality of Godhead. Everything is nicely described. It is not simply some fiction or some mythology. There is a historical evidence of Krishna's presence on this planet 5,000 years ago. He was born in Mathura. He was in Vrindavan. He went to Kurukshetra. He was there at the Battle of Kurukshetra. So one has to use his intelligence and dispel all of these foolish atheistic ideas. We see in chapter 7 of the Bhagavad-gītā how Lord Krishna also describes the mindset of the Asuras in text number 15. Namam dushkritana mudaha prapadyante naradamaha mayaya aparitajnana asuram bhavam ashritaha. Those miscreants who are grossly foolish, lowest among mankind, whose knowledge is stolen by illusion, and who partake of the atheistic nature of demons, do not surrender unto me. Now, this is very important to understand. This is a very long purport, which we've already read and discussed. But this is the same mindset that we describe. In the conclusion, Srila Prabhupada says on page 386, therefore, grossly foolish persons, the lowest of mankind, the deluded speculators, and for the professed atheists, as above mentioned, never surrender unto the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead, in spite of all scriptural and authoritative advice. Now, this is very significant because we've experienced this in our preaching. There are so many atheistic persons, or occasionally we'll meet some what's called dharmadvajis. They will wave the flag of religiousness or the flag of sexual sectarian positions, claiming, oh, we cannot accept this. This is all mythology. It's interesting that before the British came to India and learned Sanskrit, some of their European scholars came to India and learned Sanskrit. Before that time in India, none of the acharyas ever described the activities of Krishna as fictitious or mythology, what they call nowadays Hindu mythology. This is simply nonsense. You will not find these descriptions anywhere in the teachings of the Goswamis, in the teachings of any of the Vaishnava acharyas, because they accepted, it was understood that the Puranas, the Upanishads, Mahabharata, Ramayana, Srimad Bhagavatam, these are authoritative revealed scriptures by great acharyas, where the transcendental knowledge of God, Krishna, and how to live properly in the material world is given. No one ever made this proper. This only came after the British came to India trying to convert the natives into Christians. And they came up with this propaganda, all the Hindu scriptures, the Indian scriptures, this is all mythology, it's all fictitious. No, it is not mythology, it is factology. The Bhagavad-gītā was spoken during the Battle of Kurukshetra. There is a great astrologer, a great astronomer in India named Aryabhata, and he figured out that the beginning of Kali Yuga in 3102 BC, this is when Kali Yuga began, just after the departure of Lord Krishna. Krishna came at the end of Dwapara Yuga, and his activities have all been recorded. But atheistic persons will not accept. They will not accept. Just like I was describing, two kinds of living beings mentioned in the Vishnu Purana and also in Bhagavad-gītā. Deva asura evacha. One has to be on guard against these atheistic doctrines and foolish ideas, misleading ideas, illogical ideas. Very important. I see now on the internet, I have some people who regularly send me these little clips of Srila Prabhupada making various statements. And there was one clip that was very interesting. And Prabhupada was warning devotees that if you're a devotee, don't rely on this idea given in Bhagavad-gītā, that if you don't finish in this lifetime, well, next lifetime you might be born in a family of a Brahmin or in a rich man's family. Says that is not reliable. And Prabhupada was explaining, because in the material world, when somebody is born in a rich family, usually they do not care to practice Krishna consciousness. They're too busy enjoying their wealth. And if you're born in a high family, then you might start to think, oh, I'm special. Prabhupada says false pride, unnecessary pride, thinking, oh, I'm a Brahmin. These Western devotees are all mlechas and yavanas. Then they are not real Brahmins. They're not real Vaishnavas. Prabhupada was warning, and we've seen this, especially in India, in South India, and Bengal. People who think, oh, you have to take another birth, next birth, in order to be a Brahmin. So many nonsensical, foolish ideas. One time we were in Sri Rangam with Achyutananda Swami, and we had a meeting with this Rangaraj Bhattar. He was the Pradhanarchaka, the main priest of the entire Sri Rangam temple. And we were discussing this argument, whether one can be a Brahmin if he's not born in a Brahmin family in India. And this highly elevated Brahmin, who was very friendly to Srila Prabhupada and his movement, he made a statement, Chaturvarnyam mayasristam gunakarma vibhagasaha. That Brahmin, the Varnashram system was created by Krishna according to guna and karma. There's no mention of birth. There's no mention of birth. That is according to birth. It is by qualification. We see in Srila Prabhupada's teachings, he refers in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that while he was preaching in India, there's so much objection from the local Brahmins, from the caste Brahmins, claiming that he was destroying the Hindu religion by initiating these Westerners, these mlechas and yavanas into Brahmanas. They were objecting. Just see the mentality, uneducated. Uneducated. Last time I went to India, we went to a bank in Tirupati. We had some financial transaction there. So this bank manager, a pretty educated gentleman, he knew some Sanskrit, he had read Bhagavad-gītā, and some way or other, after we did our financial transaction, we were discussing this issue, and I brought him the argument. I said, so your son, if you have a son, does he automatically become a bank manager because you are a bank manager? Does he also not have to get education, to get training, to get experience, to graduate, and then he may become bank manager? Or immediately he just jumps in and becomes manager? He says, that is a good point. That is a good point, because what we have, Prabhupada has attributed the destruction of Vedic culture to this nonsense idea of Brahmanism by birth. Very dangerous nonsense idea, which is not supported by Krishna and Bhagavad-gītā, which is not supported by Srimad Bhagavatam or any of our Vaishnava-acharyas. So we'll leave it at that, and we'll open up for comments and further discussion. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Yaśodā-nandana, for that explanation of today's verse from the Bhagavad-gītā As It Is by Srila Prabhupada, which is a great blessing for all of us to be able to hear the words of God. The Bhagavad-gītā means song of God, and it is meant to enlighten all people, especially through the purports of Srila Prabhupada, our spiritual master, who has picked us up out of the darkness of ignorance by his transcendental vision of Krishna consciousness, and really changes the existence of the individual through his association. I remember Yaśodā-nandana Prabhupada came to Toronto to celebrate the purchase of the Toronto temple with all of us. He was so proud of this accomplishment. And while he was in Toronto, Prabhupada, our guru, our Jagat Guru, I wanted him to bless the city, because wherever Prabhupada went in this world, he would be blessing the earth with his presence. Wherever he walked, whoever he met, that would be a blessing for them. So I had Prabhupada come on these various walks every morning. We took him, I should say. I did have the opportunity to drive him, fortunately. But I took him to the Parliament buildings here in Toronto, and we had him walk around the building where the government leaders are. I felt this would be good for them. And we went on a walk in Don Valley Park. And we invited everybody to come on the walk, as long as they could provide their own ride. So there was a large group of us walking down through the valley there under the bridge by Bloor Street. You know where it is, Yaśodā, Prabhu. And Prabhupada had his cane with him, and he pointed to the sign that had just been put up by the city parks department. It was stoop and scoop. So it was a direction to people to, when you take your dog for a walk, instead of letting him pass in public without cleaning it up, this was new, by the way, in 1976. It was a new instruction. Like before, people used to just let their dogs go out and pass in the public without cleaning it up. Very uncivilized. So Prabhupada saw the sign, stoop and scoop. And he smiled. And he took his cane and he pointed up at the instruction. And then he looked at all of us and he said, "This is the difference between us and them." And then he further explained, this is also the difference between us and them. They worship DOG and we worship GOD. And everybody smiled. Actually, Prabhupada had a tremendous sense of humor. People sometimes they look at Prabhupada, they go, "Oh, he's so serious." Well, sometimes he was very serious, and especially with his disciples. Some of you never really had the opportunity by circumstance to get his Vapu presence. But I can tell you, and Yaśodā knows that, whenever Prabhupada called you into the room for the intelligent devotee, he was shaking. He was shaking for fear. I've done something wrong. I think that was the common concern. You didn't want to displease your spiritual master, because by his mercy, one can find Krishna. By his mercy, Lord Chaitanya can be revealed to the devotee. Because without the mercy of the spiritual master, you remain a fool. Avajananti mamudha, a fool. They deride Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead because they have no spiritual vision. Instead of worshiping God, they spend their time worshiping dog. That is the mistake of the modern world. And especially before Prabhupada came to North America, all of us, almost 100% of the people were in complete maya, illusion. Actually, Prabhupada, when he was in India, Yaśodā, you know that, he left India in disappointment because no one was listening to him there either. Prabhupada was getting no support from his god brothers. Prabhupada was getting no support from anyone. He was living in Vrindavan at Radha Damodar Temple. He was coming from there on the train to Delhi and trying to produce the BTG in his books. No support. And he decided, okay, I'm going to fulfill the order of my spiritual master. I'm going to try to carry out this mission in North America because Prabhupada was told by his guru, present Krishna consciousness to the Western-speaking people. Just like Bhaktivedanta had sent his history of Lord Chaitanya to McGill University in 1896. Into Canada, actually. Very fortunate for this country. But the people here were foolish. The definition of a fool in the Bible, for example, is a person who refuses to acknowledge God's ample evidence of who he is, his love for us, his desire that we might know him, and according to the Christians, through Jesus. When people refuse to believe in God and his message, they will eventually find out how foolish they are because God comes in the form of death. And then that's a serious situation. Fool. The foolish is a degrading term. It also refers to an idiot. That's in the English dictionary. Someone who has no idea why they were here, why they were born. It's like Prabhupada used to explain to us, if you come up to a man on the street, you ask him, who are you? Oh, I don't know. Where are you going? I'm not sure. Where do you live? I've forgotten. Then they may take you away to the insane asylum because you have no idea why you're here. So this is the situation in the modern society. And a lot of times, Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, we see the false ego working in a very dramatic way amongst all the living entities. Like, for example, when you look at the social media, everyone's trying to be the star. I'm the big star. I'm super rich. I'm Elon Musk. I'm LeBron James. I'm Pierre Trudeau or Justin Trudeau or Joe Biden. All these temporary designations that people have, which in the end add up to zero. Zero. Nobody cares. Factually, it's very hard for people to be remembered even after a few months, after they die. Recently, we had a few people die here at the ashram. After 4 or 5 months, I couldn't remember their last names. So, in conclusion, the material world is a prison house for the conditioned soul. And Prabhupada is the mercy representative of Krishna to enlighten us on how to get out of this conditioned state. And the process is described in the Bhagavad-gītā here today, that you have to rise up out of this foolish condition and become a human being and practice Krishna consciousness according to the instructions of the pure devotee. Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, if you could further comment.
Very good point you've raised there. Very important point. The fact of the matter is, Prabhupada is an especially empowered personality who has come to deliver the message of Lord Chaitanya. I was explaining to a devotee recently who was making a statement, well, Prabhupada came at the right place at the right time. I said, well, that is definitely one view, but that's also arranged by Krishna. When we study Srila Prabhupada's diaries and his early writings, things did not happen by chance. Prabhupada spent his entire life in India preparing himself, translating the first canto of the Bhagavatam, writing elaborate outlines of how he wanted to train persons with the League of Devotees. And when he came to America, he enacted that plan gradually. It did not happen overnight. He did not come out of boat in Boston in 1965, and all of a sudden it happened. Very patiently. Prabhupada was a perfect model of patience, tolerance, and very, very deep dedication to His Divine Grace, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He was a very empowered personality. We see in the writing of Lochan Das Thakur how it was predicted that a great Bhakta, a Senapati Bhakta, a great commander of the Vaishnavas would come and bring the message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu all over the world. Oh, who did that? Srila Prabhupada. I just saw an email recently from some devotees who say, oh, we have to study the writing of the previous acharyas and this and that. Well, that's nice, you do that. How about studying the writing of this current acharya, Srila Prabhupada? That is the first point. Prabhupada is the current representative of all these previous acharya. He's the one that has brought Krishna consciousness all over the world. And before somebody jumps over Srila Prabhupada to try to go to other writings of other acharyas, first study Prabhupada's books carefully, all of his lectures, all of his conversations, and then we can see what else is there with the previous acharyas. Not that one should neglect Srila Prabhupada's books or go to some other books to try to contradict His Divine Grace. Not very good. Anyway, we're going to read a few paragraphs from a lecture Prabhupada gave. This is in Calcutta on June 30th, 1973. June 30th, 1973. Okay, let's see what we have here. Bhagavad-gītā 9:11, Calcutta, June 30th, 1973. Avajananti mammuda manushim tanumashritam param bhavam ajanantu mama bhuta maheshwaram. Translation. Fools deride me when I descend in the human form. They do not know my transcendental nature and my supreme dominion over all that be. Srila Prabhupada. So Krishna is not an ordinary man. Therefore Krishna warns this. Avajananti mam mudaha. Mudha, rascals. To accept God as man and to accept man as God, this is rascaldom. Rascaldom means to accept a man as God and to accept God as man. This is rascaldom. Avajananti mam mudaha. We can understand who is an intelligent man and who is a rascal by this criterion. In another place, Krishna says, Namam duskritanu mudaha prapadyante naradamaha. Mudaha, rascals, they do not surrender unto me. Krishna in canvassing, especially in India he appeared. He is canvassing, sarva dharman parityaja, mamekam sharanam vraja. He is canvassing, but the mudas, they will not accept it. Avajananti mam mudaha. Oh, why I shall accept Krishna? I've got my own God. I manufacture my God. So we have got very shortcut criterion to understand a rascal and intelligent man. What is that? If he's a devotee of Krishna, then he's an intelligent man. If he's not, then he is rascal. That's all. No, he does not accept Krishna as God, but he has many other gods, especially in our Hindu society. They say, the Mayavad philosophers, they say everyone is God. How everyone can be God? If everyone is God, then what is the significance of God? Even not demigods. In the Shastra it is said, Yastu Narayanam Devam Brahmarudradi Devatai. Not to speak of ordinary demigods, but big demigods like Brahma, Lord Shiva, even Vishnu. Of course, Krishna is Vishnu Tattva. Krishna is not in the category of Jiva Tattva. There are Jiva Tattvas, there are Shakti Tattvas, there are Vishnu Tattvas. People do not know it. Therefore, in the next line it is said, Parambhavam Ajanantaha. They do not know what is Vishnu Tattva, what is Jiva Tattva, what is Shakti Tattva, how things are working. Parambhavam Ajanantaha. Mama Bhuta Maheshwaram. I am the Supreme Person. In another place, Krishna says, Mattaha Parataram Nanyat. There is no more superior personality than me. These are the facts. In the Brahma Samhita, it is said, Ishvara Parama Krishnaha. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You can become God, I can become God, he can become God, but Supreme God is Krishna. If we accept that we're all gods, but still there is distinction. Here is male God, here's female God, here's child God, here's an educated God, here's a foolish God. If we're all gods, then we have to qualify these gods in this way. There are differentiations from one God to another. That means one God is superior than another God. That you have to accept. So in this way, if you go on making progress, who is best God, then you come to Krishna. Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachidananda Vigraha. Sachidananda Vigraha. So the Param Brahma, impersonal, they say, no, Vigraha person, just like you and me person. So they cannot imagine our person can become so powerful, as in the previous verse it is said, Maya Dyakshena Prakritihi Suyate Sacharacharam. A person is directing. Just like we direct a big businessman, he's sitting in his room alone, but he's directing the whole factory, the whole business, everything. That is being done. Although Krishna is in Goloka Vrindavana, he has nothing to do. Why God has something to do? Then what kind of God he is? Here we see practically a big man, a big minister, a big prime minister, a president. He's also sitting, giving direction. He has nothing to do. Similarly, Krishna also, he has nothing to do. Krishna is enjoying, just like you see Krishna's form. He's enjoying with Srimati Radharani. He has nothing to do. That is confirmed in a Vedic literature. Natasya karyam karanam cha vidyate. Why God should be busy doing something? So param bhavam ajanantaha. They do not know what is God. Although God is appearing before them, we've got the name of God, the fame of God, the pastimes of God, the demonstration of his different energies of God. Everything is there. Still, we are searching after God, and unfortunately, we are manufacturing a man God. Therefore, we are mudhas. Abajananti mam mudaha. Here is God accepted by all acharyas. Not that by sentiment. There are acharyas in India. Actually, practically our whole civilization is guided by the acharyas. Acharyavan Purusho Veda. We have to accept acharya. So in this way, Prabhupada gives so many wonderful explanations of this particular verse, and we'll open it up for further discussion or questions now. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. Extremely enlightening, these subject matters. And I see Vinod Bhatta, the Prabhu in Bangalore, India, that Ron Singh has written a comment in the chat. Maybe you could read it out for us, and then we could progress forward into the discussion.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
So he says, on the absolute platform, the physical appearance isn't appreciated by many people or disciples of the pure devotee is a very dangerous situation for the disciples, because he walks and talks just like an ordinary commoner. And many people or disciples take him like that. So they temporarily or sometimes fall away from spiritual life. So the Vani instructions are much safer.
Yes, I wanted to, that's a very good point, is because there is two aspects to the appearance of the spiritual master, Vapu Vani. And Prabhupada was always encouraging us to associate with him in sound rather than Vapu personally, because there was always a danger of that personal association deteriorating down onto the material platform. It's called familiarity. And familiarity, Prabhupada explained, breeds contempt, so that sometimes the people that were directly serving Srila Prabhupada, who is the representative of Krishna, who is the pure devotee of Krishna, sometimes they would look upon him, Ron, as an ordinary person. And then they would start to criticize him, that he was wrong, he didn't know what he was doing, that he was making mistakes on so many different levels. And this mundane perception of him is certainly to their downfall. Because Prabhupada would always encourage us, Prabhus, to read his books. Why? Because if you read his books, if you actually study them thoroughly, and you get an opportunity to be in his association through his letters and his classes and that, you get to realize that Prabhupada is different than all of us ordinary conditioned souls. Very, very different person. And the opportunity to be with him in sound through his Vani incarnation is a true blessing. I had a Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, I had a fellow reach out to me the last few weeks. 2 weeks ago, he announced to me, oh, I'm a Shaktivesh avatar. Really? Oh yeah, thank you. And he goes, why is it that you can't understand Vapu over Vani? It's more important for us to have association with people rather than sound. I said, well, you certainly haven't read Prabhupada's books, because we practice a bhakti yoga system of hearing and chanting. And in doing this, we're able to associate with the pure devotee on a transcendental platform, because this is the science of the soul, not of blood, pus, stool, and urine, which is the material body. This is unfortunate, because in this situation, most people are bewildered with this philosophy these days that you need to associate with someone in their Vapu form in order to understand the science of Krishna consciousness. This is a big mistake. Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, if you could comment.
Yeah, I just posted a verse from the a purport from Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila 12:2-12. Prabhupada explained, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu usually saw Lord Jagannath from a distance, standing behind the column of Garuda. But because he had not seen Lord Jagannath for 15 days, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu felt great separation from him. In great anxiety, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu crossed the meeting hall and entered the room where food was offered, just to see the face of Lord Jagannath. In verse 210, this action is called Maryada Langana, a violation of the regulative principles. This indicates that one should not come very near a superior, Both the Lord's deity form and the spiritual master should be seen from a distant place. This is called maryada. Otherwise, as is said, familiarity breeds contempt. Sometimes coming too near the deity or the spiritual master degrades the neophyte devotee. Personal servants of the deity and the spiritual master should therefore always be very careful, for negligence may overcome them in their duty. So this is very important. There's another one I posted above. I wanted to read that. There's Prabhupada says, unless one is enlightened, a sincere person is able to see Krishna through the transparent via medium of Sri Guru Deva, the spiritual master. Unless one is enlightened by the knowledge given by the spiritual master, he cannot see things as they are, even though he remains constantly with the spiritual master. This incident at Kaliyadaha is very instructive for those eager to advance in Krishna consciousness. This is from Madhya Lila, 1899. There's also a place in the third canto of Bhagavatam where Prabhupada mentions in one purport that sometimes the argument is given that a person may be very busy with various activities. How is he supposed to pursue spiritual life? And Prabhupada said this is not done physically, but through reason and logic and study of the scriptures. Prabhupada always emphasized that Vani is more important than Vapu. Of course, Prabhupada's transcendental Vapu was very important. We don't neglect that. That was very special, very unique, and we were very fortunate to have that association. But now, even with modern technology, you can get Prabhupada's association on video. You can hear Prabhupada giving a Bhagavatam class. You can hear Prabhupada chanting japa. You can hear Prabhupada giving a whole lecture. So there is no lack of association, even with the Vapu of Srila Prabhupada. That is also considered physical association to the senses. But Prabhupada has always emphasized that Vapu is more important than Vani. And now what we have is a reversal of various neophytes who come up and say that their Vapu, whatever level they're on, whether it's a neophyte level or some so-called Madhyam level, that their physical Vapu is more important than the eternal Vani of Srila Prabhupada. That is the wrong understanding and the wrong approach, as we can see from these various purports. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, exactly. And I just wanted to relate an incident that took place when Prabhupada visited Toronto. There was a devotee that was key in our operation at the temple. And Yaśodā Prabhu, we always saw this as the principle of how to serve the spiritual master. It was in separation. That was how we operated. In other words, it was more important for us to do our duty than to necessarily travel and see Prabhupada. Of course, like you said, it was a great honor and privilege to have that opportunity. But at the same time, we all understood it was more important to serve the spiritual master in separation. So what happened? It was my friend, a Yojapati, who is now currently B.B. Govinda. And he's still upset with me over the years because what happened was he had a reputation as being an excellent cook, as you know. And we had traveled for years on a bus together. We were very good friends back then. And it spread amongst the servants of Prabhupada at the time that Yojapati was this expert cook. And they thought, well, best that we get him to travel with us and cook for Prabhupada. And guess what happened? I turned it down. I said no. And I told Yojapati at the time, B.B. Govinda, I said, remember this. We have a large temple here. We have a lot of responsibility, and it's more important for you to serve the spiritual master in separation and serve him with this center than for you to travel and cook. So he still regrets that I never allowed him to go. I think eventually he took off because he was so mad at me. But duty is our responsibility, everyone. The duty, the sense of understanding what the order of the spiritual master is and carrying it out. That is Krishna consciousness. Venkat Bhatta, do we have any other comments as we come close to the end of today's Bhagavad-gītā reading and discussion? Any more comments?
No other comments. No.
Okay, well, thank you everyone for attending today's program. It was our blessing to have your association. We want to thank you for that so much. It's through the association of like-minded devotees that we all can make advancement in Krishna consciousness. And don't forget, tomorrow at 10 a.m. in the morning, we've got the reading of Srimad Bhagavatam class, which is, I don't want to say one of my favorites. It is one of my favorite classes during the week, our week of sadhana, where we have classes on Wednesdays, Saturdays, and Sunday mornings to discuss Bhagavad-gītā and take your questions and answers in the chat during the discussion section of the classes. And don't forget, we're doing a Vyas Puja, an offering to Srila Prabhupada publication. And Venkat Bhatta we're gathering our database together, and we'll be sending out reminders to all of you to write an offering, whatever it is, however you feel. You could also write a little bit about yourself and where you are in this world and how you're trying to make advancement through the blessings of Srila Prabhupada and the association of devotees that are focused on Prabhupada as pure devotee, Diksha, and Siksha Guru. So please write your Vyas Puja offering and send it in. That's going to be in September, on September 8th, 2023. And we're going to be having a special program that day from Sacramento, where Yaśodā is going to lead the Vyas Puja ceremony, and we'll be videoing it for our YouTube channel and also live online, so you can also attend that. And we'll also have the day before, on the 7th, the Janmashtami festival, the birth of Lord Krishna. And this is according to the Mayapur calendar, which is the calendar that Prabhupada had us follow when he was personally present with us in this world. So lots of things coming up, all kinds of activity for spreading Krishna consciousness. And please, wherever you are in this call globally, continue to preach to others about this opportunity to take up spiritual life and become enlightened in this opportune time in history. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to the Prabhupada Disciples Association members, and all glories to the Sankirtan movement of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Let's enjoy a kirtan with Prabhupada chanting from the 60s in New York City. Haribol.
Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur-bhakta-vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur-bhakta-vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare
Vanchakalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Ça va bien?